Fam, kill the lights, turn the volume all the way up. And if you have someone you trust next to you, hold their hand tight, because what you are about to hear isn't a fairy tale. It is a lesson in blood, greed, and the kind of justice that hits like a freight train. This is a story about how the people who share your DNA can sometimes be the ones holding the knife behind your back. It's about a will, a betrayal, and a house that never forgets. My name is Sarah. I'm 32 years old, and for the last 5 years, I was a ghost. I didn't exist to my friends. I didn't exist to the dating world. I existed only for one person, my grandmother, Eleanor. Eleanor was the matriarch of our family. She lived in a sprawling Victorian era home just outside of Boston, built in 1905. Original oak paneling, stained glass windows, and a garden that smelled of lavender and old memories. That house was worth millions, but to me, it just smelled like home. But then came the sickness. Alzheimer's is a thief. It doesn't just kill you, it steals your soul first. It takes your memories, your dignity, and your voice. For 5 years, I watched the strongest woman I knew fade away. I changed the diapers. I spoon fed her when she forgot how to chew. I held her hand at 3 a.m. when she screamed because she didn't know who I was. And where was her only son? My Uncle Robert? He was in Miami, living his best life. Robert was a man who wore Italian suits but had a soul made of cheap plastic. He called once a year, usually on Christmas, for exactly 3 minutes. Is she still kicking? Okay, good. Gotta go. The investors are waiting. He didn't care about her pain. He only cared about the inheritance clock ticking down. I drained my savings. I lost my career. I lost myself. But I don't regret a single second because I loved her. On November 12th, 2023, the silence finally came. Grandma Eleanor passed away in her sleep. At the funeral, I was a wreck. I couldn't even stand up. But Robert, he rolled up in a rented Bentley wearing sunglasses, checking his watch every 5 minutes. He didn't shed a tear. He wasn't looking at the casket. He was looking at the house. He was looking at the roofline, calculating the square footage, mentally counting his money. The day after the funeral, the Sharks gathered. We sat in a cold, sterile conference room at his lawyer's office. I didn't want money. I just hoped Grandma had left me enough to maybe rent a small apartment to start my life over. The lawyer, a man who smelled of expensive cologne and deceit, opened the folder. The last will and testament of Eleanor Vance, he announced, dated 2 weeks prior to her death. My blood turned to ice. 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago, Grandma couldn't speak. She didn't know her own name. She couldn't have signed anything legally. The lawyer continued, his voice monotone. I, Eleanor, being of sound mind, leave my entire estate, including the property, the land, and all financial assets, to my beloved son Robert, to my granddaughter Sarah. I leave my antique sewing machine. Silence, total suffocating silence. Then Robert laughed, a dry, cruel chuckle. Well, Sarah, he said, leaning back in his leather chair, looks like you're out. I'm listing the house on Monday. The market is hot. I need you and your junk out in 48 hours. I stood up, shaking. 48 hours? I've lived there for 5 years. That's my home. She didn't sign this. You forced her hand. Robert stood up too, towering over me. His eyes were dead. I have a signature. I have witnesses. And you? You have a credit card debt and a pile of scrap metal. Get out, Sarah, or I will have the sheriff throw you out. I left that office broken. I had nowhere to go. No money, no family left. I packed my meager belongings into my beat-up sedan, and I took that sewing machine, a heavy cast-iron 1950s Singer. Not because I wanted it, but because it was the only thing Robert didn't want. It was the only thing that still felt like her. I moved into a cheap motel on the edge of town, the kind of place where the neon sign buzzes all night and the walls are paper thin. Meanwhile, Robert went to work. He didn't just renovate the house, he gutted it. He called it modernizing. I called it desecration. He cut down the weeping willow tree where my father used to swing as a child just to make room for a bigger driveway. He ripped out the 100-year-old mahogany staircase and replaced it with glass and steel. He painted over the hand-carved woodwork with sterile hospital white. Every day I saw his updates on Facebook, turning this old dump into a gold mine. Real estate, king, euro flipping millions. He poured everything he had into it. He leveraged his own assets. He took out loans. He spent over $400,000 on renovations. He wanted to sell it for $2.5 million, and he found a buyer immediately, an overseas investor. Cash offer, no questions asked. The closing was set for Friday. On Thursday night, I was sitting in my motel room eating instant noodles. I looked at the sewing machine in the corner. It was jammed. The wheel wouldn't turn. I sighed. I thought maybe if I fixed it, I could sell it on eBay for $50 just to buy food for next week. I grabbed a screwdriver and started taking apart the base. I removed the heavy metal plate under the bobbin case, and there, tucked into the grease and the gears, was a thick yellow envelope. It was taped to the inside of the machine. Written on it, in Grandma's steady handwriting from years ago, were 3 words: "For Sarah, open when the wolves come." My hands were trembling so hard I almost dropped it. Inside was a USB drive and a letter. The letter was dated 5 years ago, before the dementia took her. It read, "My dearest Sarah, I know my son. I know Robert better than anyone. I know that when I get sick, his greed will outweigh his love. I know he will try to take everything from you. So I have prepared a safety net he is too arrogant to see. He never liked the sewing machine. He called it women's work. He will never look here. Inside this drive is the truth. The house isn't mine to give away, Sarah, because 5 years ago I transferred the deed into an irrevocable trust. You are the sole beneficiary. Any will I sign after this date is void regarding the property, because legally I don't own it. Let him show his true colors. Let him spend his money, and then crush him." I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the edge of the bed, watching the sun come up, feeling a fire ignite in my chest. Friday morning, 10 a.m. The closing was happening at the title company downtown. Robert was there. The buyers were there. Champagne was on the table. The pen was hovering over the check. I kicked the door open. I walked in wearing my jeans and a hoodie, looking like I hadn't slept in a week, but I felt like a giant. "Stop the sale," I said. My voice was calm, deadly calm. Robert looked up, his face twisting in disgust. "Sarah, what are you doing here? Security, get this trash out of here." I walked straight to the table and threw a document down. "You can't sell this house, Robert." "And why is that?" he sneered. "Because you're sentimental?" "No," I smiled. A smile that didn't reach my eyes. "Because it's not your house." The buyer's attorney, a sharp woman in a gray suit, picked up the paper. She adjusted her glasses. She read the first paragraph. Then she read the second. Her face went pale. She looked at Robert. Then she looked at her client. "Put the check away," she said. "The deal is off." "What?" Robert screamed, standing up, knocking his chair over. "This is insane. I have the will." "This is a certified copy of an irrevocable trust," the attorney said, her voice cutting through the room like a knife. "The property was transferred out of Eleanor Vance's name 5 years ago. The owner of the house is Sarah Vance. Your mother had no legal right to bequeath this property in her will because she didn't own it anymore. This sale is fraudulent." The room went silent. You could hear the air conditioning humming. Robert turned to look at me. His face went from red to ghost white. He started sweating. But he stammered, "I spent $400,000 on renovations. I put in a pool. I fixed the roof. That's my money." I looked him dead in the eye. "And I appreciate it, Uncle Robert," I said softly. "You really increased the property value of my home. But I didn't hire you. I didn't ask for those renovations. You did that as a volunteer. Thank you for your donation." The aftermath was catastrophic for him. The buyer sued him for fraud and wasted time. The contractors he hadn't paid yet put liens on his personal assets. He was leveraged to the hilt, banking on that sale to pay off his debts. He lost his condo in Miami. He lost the Bentley. He is currently declaring bankruptcy. And me? I moved back in yesterday. Sure, he ruined the garden, but I'm replanting the roses. And every morning, I sit on the brand new marble patio that my greedy uncle paid for. I drink my coffee, and I listen to the wind in the trees. And sometimes, if I listen closely, I can hear Grandma Eleanor laughing. The moral of the story, fam: be careful who you step on to get to the top, because you never know when the floor is going to drop out from under you. Arrogance makes you blind. But love plays the long game. If you made it this far, you're part of the resistance now. Drop a comment below saying, "The sewing machine won." Share this with someone who needs to see justice served. And remember, karma doesn't have a deadline.